Welcome, everyone. Shalom, as we say. How are you? Oh, we could do better than that. Good, good. Shalom. We're glad you're here. This is such an important program as part of the comprehensive plan for Mount Vernon. So the input you will hear from all of us is so very important, and we're glad that our community, Sinai Free Synagogue, is able to host tonight and to be part of this wonderful city and its future. So welcome, and let's move right into the workshop. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, we're honored to have with us tonight such an important person behind this plan, our mayor. So let's say it for Mayor Patterson.
Good evening, everyone.
Right in the middle, stand right here.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So we thank you so much, Rabbi Barzilai, and shalom to you. Rabbi Barzilai, I've known you probably since the late 80s, early 90s, when we started working around HIV/AIDS together. And the Sinai Free Synagogue has always been a very good friend and community partner, has always opened up their space for different community events. And so you continue in that tradition. So thank you so much to you and the synagogue here. So we are here. This is our second public workshop. That might sound strange because it sounds like it's the second time that we've engaged the community, but it really is probably about the 13th time or something. Okay, so it's about the 13th time. The workshops are different than kind of, I guess, the different sessions, the online sessions that have been done, but there have been sessions where individuals have come to, whether they were in person or online, to give their thoughts about what they wanted to see in the community, how they wanted and how they envisioned, as we see envision Mount Vernon, the growth, the development, the transformation, but also the preservation of Mount Vernon happen, because it's not just about the transformation, but in some areas it's also about preservation, especially preserving our very strong residential neighborhoods, and how in the midst of a changing community and society, and as Mount Vernon evolves, how do we preserve the things that are good and strong in our community, and how do we improve upon and transform the things where there is opportunity and need to change with transportation and green spaces and climate change and housing needs, and making sure that we are meeting things for our youth and our elderly so that people can age in place. And so we're really, really excited that you are here tonight as part of this second public workshop, because you can't do a comprehensive plan and look at how Mount Vernon needs to grow and develop and evolve without the voices of the community. For far too long, Mount Vernon's development, rezoning, and things of that nature have been dictated more outside of the city and outside of the purview and the input of the residents. And so for the first time in 55 years, we are doing and will complete a comprehensive plan. There have been attempts in the past, 2008, 2010, to do it, but it hasn't been completed. And even if it was, 10, 13 years makes a huge difference. If we would have done this process 5 years ago, we would be really redoing it now, especially in what we know about COVID and what we know about climate change and what we know about EV charging stations and so many of the changing things that are happening in our very rapidly changing society. And so this is an opportunity for us to really get your input on streets and traffic and surveillance and dog runs and green spaces for our children. During COVID, we know a lot of people just didn't have, if you live in an apartment, you didn't necessarily have outside spaces. And so, for those who had to stay in place during COVID and you had a house and a backyard, that was much easier than those who lived in apartments. Where do you go when you can't even go to the park? Excuse me. So we really, really want your input. What type of restaurants? What do you want to see? How can we bring the type of businesses to Mount Vernon that will allow us to spend our money in Mount Vernon? We're not a poor community. We just don't have a lot of the services and the stores and the restaurants and the entertainment districts that we need to keep our money in Mount Vernon. And so we want to hear all of that from you. We want there to be robust conversation. I mean, mark up stuff, get your dots, put your dots up all over the place. Speak to the planning staff, who is an amazing planning staff. Speak to the council, speak to the mayor, speak to your neighbors. Get to know them, right? We're outside again. Get to know people in the room. The fact that you have shown up already shows your level of commitment and your desire to be involved. And we applaud you for that. We thank you for that. And now we really want you to be active partners in the evolution and the transformation and the preservation of our community together. So we thank you for coming tonight. And I believe, what am I handing this off to our incredible City Council President? And so, without delay, we bring forward the City Council President, Danielle Brown Esquire, along with Edward Poteet, who is also a City Council member and one that is helping to drive this from the council's end, because whatever plan that we do, at the end, it is the council that is going to have to adopt it. And so this is an administrative and a legislative partnership. And of course, the community is right at the center. So thank you so much. And welcome.
Good evening. Oh, he said the middle. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I asked Councilman Ed Poteet to join me. They told me to be short and brief, so I'm going to do so. But I'm excited to see so many faces out. I see some new faces, which is exciting because a lot of people think that the public workshop is going to be just like the community conversations, and it's not. It's actually growing and expanding on the work that was done previously. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be fun. This is our opportunity to say, you heard what we said. Oh, no, not quite. Go back and do it again, right? Don't be shy about it. This is our community, so let's make sure we're communicating exactly what we want to see, and so that it reflects everyone that's here, all races, all ages, all cultures, right? So let's make sure that we give that input, and I'm going to hand it off to Councilman Poteet so he can say a few words.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. Can I get some energy tonight? Good evening, everyone. We are here for the comp plan, and there's two quick things that I want to say. First, congratulations to our mayor for having 4 more years. Congratulations. There were some rumors out there that if Tuesday didn't go the right way, and it did, that this process may be all for naught. So the fact that our mayor won 4 more years is important in general, but crucial to this process, because now we have a clear path to make sure that this happens. The other group of people that I want to thank are you. You could be anywhere on a hot summer day, and so I want to thank you for your commitment for being here. When we started this process, there were a lot of questions as if, you can't get this done, we've tried this before, people won't believe in the process. So I'm so proud and happy of your commitment for believing in us and believing that this process can actually happen. So thank you, Mount Vernon. Thank you for showing up and looking forward to this comp plan process.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I introduce the consultant team and we just get right into it, I just want to acknowledge and recognize the staff and other folks who have shown up today. First, and this is a treat, we're joined by all of our land use board chairs today. So we have Planning Board Chair Darryl Selsey, Architectural Review Board Chair Robin Harmon Myers, and ZBA Chair Mike Justino, along with Buzz Riley, who's on the ARB as well. I think that's it from the Land Use Board, but let's clap for them. Thank you for showing up. And so from the planning staff, aside from myself, we have Deputy Commissioner Marlon Molina. We have Associate Commissioner Catherine Meja in the back. our senior planner, Will Highland. Sitting all the way in the back, our Director of Economic Development, Andrea Haynes. Sitting next to her is our Grants Administrator, Steve Lawrence. And sitting, who signed you in, is our Executive Secretary, Tamika Graham-Otara. And let's give them a round of applause. We're joined by other staff today, and the reason I want to recognize them is that they're here to, both participate, and you could go up to them and ask them questions. So we're glad to have an all hands on deck type of situation. So I'm just going to scan randomly to identify people. Yes, Madam Mayor. Oh, do you want to do that? I could. I got it. So it's not that random. I'm just being a little facetious. So starting over here, I see our Fire Commissioner, Deborah Norman. I think our Deputy Commissioner Teddy Beal was here, if I saw it somewhere. He's outside. Oh, he's in the corner over there? Yeah. So, our Deputy Commissioner for Human Resources, Tennille Peters, is here. Let's go into the back. Our Youth Bureau looks well represented with our Commissioner Debbie Burrell, and then our Deputy Commissioner Dina Williams. Our Director of our Dole Center is here as well, Mr. Paul. We have Shane Brooks, who's our Sustainability Director in the Department of Public Works. Our Deputy City Clerk, Donna Jackson. And let me just make sure I don't miss, but let's give a big round of applause, number one, to our communications squad, who's filming, who's helping set up the mics, who has the sound, is Director Tim Allen, and Hassan is running around somewhere. Oh, there you are, yeah. So he'll be running around taking photos and such. Did I miss anyone, Madam Mayor? Oh, my fault. So tonight, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a brief 15-20-minute presentation from our consultant team, who I'll introduce to you right now, and then we're all gonna get to work. So we're gonna go back to the boards a little bit later on, and just try to get your energy, your ideas. Those of you who attended the first public. Madam Mayor?
I just wanted to also note, thank you to the planning staff and the team of Mount Vernon for ensuring that those who English is a second language can also participate. And so when you come out here, you might see people with headphones on. Well, the whole conversation is being translated live and in real time to them in Spanish as well as Portuguese.
Yes.
And so we have those capabilities for all of our public meetings, and we want to make sure that language is never a barrier and that we are inclusive of everyone's needs. So thank you to this team for doing that. And if you have friends and family who need those services, they can definitely come out and participate in this, because we want them to understand in their primary language so that they could also communicate back to us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'd like to introduce the three organizations making up our consultant team. It's led by, and if the consultants can stand when I say the organization, just so everyone knows your face and can recognize you when we get to work. Appreciate it. So MUD Workshop, Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop, is the lead on this. We're also working with Hudson Valley Plan for Progress, who's focusing on economic development and housing for the comprehensive plan, and AKRF, who's looking at zoning and environmental. So without further delay, I'd like to turn it over to Shache Pandey, who's the principal of MUD Workshop. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, council persons. I'm very excited to be here. We're all very excited to be here. And I'm going to dive right into what we're going to be doing today. So over the course of several community conversations that city planning has had with you, the planning department, and the workshops, as well as several advisory committee meetings and conversations that we've had with the different agencies at the city, we would like to first recap where we are in the process and in the timeline, and also give you a feedback of what we've heard in a consolidated way, you know, not just from the community, but also from everybody in at the agencies and from the advisory committee as well. And then we want to quickly move on to where we're headed next. And we want to introduce 6 revitalization guidelines today. These guidelines are based on the feedback that we heard from you. And these 6 revitalization guidelines, we need your help to refine in the community workshop. There are 3 activities that we have designed for today. We hope that they're fun and engaging, and we're calling them Things, Places, and People. And it's about what we want, where we want it, and how and who is going to help us put that together. And then we want to come back and talk about where we'll be headed next. So on the next slide, you'll see that there is a timeline, and I want to just quickly recap that we're in the month of, we're at the end of June, and what we've done up to this point is done a little bit of background study and evaluated, you know, some of the data and desk research. We've also spoken to many people, organizations, and the advisory committee in depth. And we are at the second public workshop. The first public workshop that we had was towards the end of April. And how did we get here? We got here with your help. During the course of the last 6 months, we've had 9 community conversations, 1 roundtable that was a business roundtable, 1 real estate roundtable, several interviews with city agency leads to talk about where there might be system deficiencies, where we can improve, what do they need, and a community-wide comprehensive plan survey, which apparently had 400 people participate in it, give or less a few. We also have an advisory committee, so we've had, up to this point, I guess, 3 advisory committee meetings, and we've held 6 workshops with them, and we've had a public workshop with you and a presentation to the city council to get their feedback. So let's talk about what we heard through all of these sessions. We're focusing today on downtown revitalization, so I'm going to condense in our report back for downtown revitalization and what's happening in the downtown. A few things that jumped out are that there's very high vacancy, which is not great even for the existing businesses. Not just the businesses that, you know, not just the vacant areas, but the existing businesses also suffer dearly because of this high vacancy. There's a lack of uniformity, identity in the entire downtown and also for the storefronts. And many buildings are in a state of disrepair, right? Not just the buildings, but even the streetscape itself. It's not very inviting because the sidewalks are crowded and there is spillover from the businesses onto the sidewalks. And most importantly, there isn't a critical mass of people in the downtown to support these businesses. And that is also because there isn't really a mixed use zoning that allows for that, which can be found in several other downtowns of similar scales, right? Residential, along with a little bit of cultural and art amenities and retail and commercial in the same area, that really just does give a critical mass of people to live, work, and play in the downtown that they live in. So, what are the priorities and opportunities that some of you suggested, and how could we address these? They were that people would like to see some uniformity in the downtown. And what that means is that we should maybe look at some urban design guidelines and streetscaping to make the downtown more attractive. That was really the number one priority that we heard over and over again. Not just the buildings, but also the streets and the public spaces. In addition, the kind of businesses that are in the downtown are not necessarily the kind of businesses that everybody wants. What they would like to see is a much more diverse variety of businesses, restaurants, studios, art places, along with cafes, and some of the businesses that are there now, but not a concentration of the same type of business. We heard as a third priority that the zoning regulations should be revisited to consider mixed use, which currently is not something that's allowed by the zoning regulation in downtown. And however, as we do this, the character of the downtown corridor, which was identified by all of you as South 4th Avenue and Gramerton Avenue, that should be allow for growth, but also, a village character should be preserved for it. That is maybe 4 stories and not more than that. And lastly, downtown should be a lot more walkable, meaning that the streetscapes should allow for should prioritize pedestrians over cars. So I wanted to give you a quick snapshot. This is fun information also, and you'll see some of it on our boards and on the exercises that we have for you today. But because there were a little shy of 400 participants who took the
maybe not everything is
online
4-story.
survey, I want to highlight that everybody wanted more restaurants and coffee shops in the downtown if there were to be new developments, followed by streetscape and public realm improvements. So this is kind of like a trade-off, right? Like, sure, there should be a little bit more, there can be a little bit more development in downtown. Maybe not everything is 4 stories, but maybe it's 1 story or 2 stories. So if it goes a little bit higher, we would love these amenities: cultural facilities, streetscape and public realm, and restaurants and coffee shops. Farmers markets, and cultural resources and music and entertainment really, really on something that people would like to see. So we wanted to go out and also do our survey and really look at what you're talking about. This is an image of South 4th Avenue looking south on a Thursday, 25th of May at 11:12 a.m. As you can see, it's pretty quiet, and there are a number of shuttered storefronts. And also on the left here, you see that the sidewalk is being encroached by spaces by business activity. And this is what we wanted to show you, that you've been talking about, right? But that was the Memorial Day weekend. So we thought we should go back again and not just look at it over the Memorial Day weekend. So we went back again on a Sunday, on the 4th of June, at 6:15 p.m. And it was still pretty barren, actually. Not a lot of people. Many storefronts were closed. So we understood a little bit better what you were talking about, and that you would like a downtown that is a lot more lively and is a lot more, and it does need uses and it does need places to increase vitality here. So, summing up, active storefronts, a critical mass of people, cleanliness. Big one is identity, that everybody wanted to see, a uniform identity, facade improvements, more playgrounds and more plazas, greater diversity of dining and shopping. So all of these things we summed up, and we thought, okay, how do we take all of this and where do we advance to next? And we came up with 6 revitalization guidelines. I'm going to go over all of them once, and you will find these guidelines appear on all the boards that we have up today for our conversation on people, places, and things. So the first one guideline is that let's define building density and uses in and around the downtown to attract a consumer base and investment to support businesses. That was really the first revitalization guideline. The next one is about reinforcing the identity of South 4th Avenue and Gramerton Avenue as the main downtown corridors. Now, this also means that currently the two of them have a divide between them, which is the Metro North tracks. So we really, really want to think about this corridor as one corridor between the north and the south, and as the main downtown corridor, and reinforces identity and for it to be uniform across the north and northern and southern portions of the city. The third, which we heard from all of you in the survey, that the top reason for them to be living in Mount Vernon was the transit, and that people use the transit quite a bit. However, and it was the top one reason that people chose to locate here, and they saw it as as one of the biggest assets. By far, 70 to 80% of the people voted for that. So we wanted to, but a lot of people said that if they're working late at night, and if they want to get to a place in downtown from the transit stop, that the last mile is not that well thought out, and it is not connected. So the third guideline stems from that, which is that let's make transit use an efficient and convenient choice for residents and visitors. Now that would mean let's have bicycles, let's have better and recognizable pedestrian networks. Let's maybe even think about micro-mobility options. And also maybe let's think about Uber in places where Uber and Lyft and other such services in places where we cannot necessarily put down a bike path, right? Or we cannot necessarily do much with the pedestrian circulation. Then another thing that came up was that the downtown, and as you'll see on the map in the back, is that the downtown does have a number of underused and vacant lots that have been lying vacant for a long time. And they contribute to the blight that in some places does exist. So what do we do with that? One of the things we thought that, well, all of them cannot be developed all at once. That is going to take a lot of investment from, and a lot of engagement with the private property owners of these parcels. But what can happen is that we could repurpose and reintegrate underused lots with interim and, in some cases, permanent uses wherever possible, and wait for development to occur, but not leave it completely barren, especially if it is on the main street. So what can we do about those lots? The fifth is about creating a recognizable network of open spaces. Now we recognize that there are several open spaces in Mount Vernon, but a lot of them are also hard paved. I know that there's been a conversation about let's plant trees wherever we can, let's get green cover in Mount Vernon to the extent we can. So this would involve reclaiming spaces where we can, whether it is in the traffic right-of-way, or it is a corner of an intersection, or widening the sidewalk, or where possible, if there is an underused lot, let's think about how we can green that if other conditions allow. And also make it recognizable for people to go from one place to another place. And that means having good wayfinding. There are a lot of things happening here, but we don't all know where to go next, right? And last but not the least, we can do all of these physical improvements, but we also need to develop a robust business assistance program and target business vacancies and facade repairs as a priority. And of course, then this business assistance program can grow bigger and assist businesses in retaining them, in attracting them. But first, let's start targeting the vacancies and the facade disrepairs. So I want to stop right there and just leave the slide up, because these are the 6 revitalization guidelines that we're going to be working with today. So I'll leave it up for 5-10 seconds so you can take a look at it, and then I'll move on with what we're going to do with these, how we're going to make these even more specific to downtown, and how you can help us. Okay. So, moving on, now we have this whole list of desires, right? Streetscape improvements, mixed income housing, events and programming, facade maintenance, parking, new open spaces and connections, and so many other things. But how are we gonna get there? It's not just one silver bullet solution to getting there. So there are several ways and several approaches that we're gonna have to take. The first one, and we've divided these into 4 approaches today, but we want to hear from you what are additional approaches that we can take. The first one, say capital improvement projects. So things like streetscape improvements, public safety, bike lanes, parking, street cleaning, new open spaces. These are all things that will need capital investment, right? Then there are others, like there are others like parking, new open spaces, arts and culture, mixed income housings, and attracting a critical mass of people. That is not just going to happen through investment, right? We're going to think about policy. We're going to need to think about what can the zoning do? What can the land use do? What type of density do we need in order to attract a critical mass of people? You know, do we need housing, and do we need retail in the same building? Do we need it on the same block? Do we need to be thinking about those vacant lots that have been vacant for a really long time? How do we reintegrate them? Do we need some policy intervention there? So all of those things we'll be thinking about in land use, zoning, and density. Next, we have something called partnerships. Now, there might be something already ongoing in Mount Vernon that we haven't necessarily heard about. You might be active in your own communities. You might have or you may have been thinking that you want to be, start an organization that can organize an event or a program or a farmer's market, or just keep the streets clean and safe. And those are the things that we think will need partnerships. We want to talk about partnerships with you today. One example is a business improvement district, but other examples are also just, a block by block, business owners and residents getting together and talking about what happens on their block and how they can keep it safe and how they can keep it clean. And then a very important aspect is governance, which would include things like historic preservation. We've heard this over and over again. We know that there is there's currently a study going on about identifying buildings and places of historic significance. And we don't really have a record of it, and we've been hearing from you and marking places that you think are places of historic significance. So we definitely want to preserve the history and the culture as best as we can. We want to think about what type of businesses we want in Mount Vernon's downtown, and these are all matters of governance, and we're going to be discussing with you today in the workshop what you think are some of the system deficiencies that are there at the city level, and how you think you can pitch in or help out. So we need your feedback on how the city can improve its governance and support some of these desires, but also what you can do to be, as a citizen, to help out the city. So now coming to the community workshop. There are 3 exercises, and we encourage you to participate in all of them. The first one is, we're calling it the things activity. So what it has is there are 2 boards right behind you, in the wall behind you, and then one to the wall to my right and your left. These boards have, in 3 languages, all of the 6 strategies, these 6 revitalization guidelines and strategies that are written on these boards. Along with that, along with each strategy, there is an example of how, other places have done something similar. So you see an example of that. And you have some projects associated with it, right? These little colored icons with buildings and bike path. So it's showing you how a policy or a strategy can be implemented at the physical level on the street, right? What we want you to do is go to these boards, read the strategy, talk to the consultants who are going to be over there, and tell us if you think that how these strategies should be refined or improved, and what can we and if we should add some more projects or some more details on how it'll come to life physically in the downtown. The next exercise is you want to pick up these project pins, what we're calling them as project pins. You want to pick up these project pins, and there's a big map of the downtown right in the middle behind you. And some of the consultants are actually holding up those little pins, those project pins. We want you to take some of those project pins and put it inside the map, right here, right? Put it on the map and have a conversation about where does it make most sense to have a bike path? Where does it make more sense to reclaim or one of the unused lots? This is important because it's a big 20-year plan. And what you'll help us do on this map is understand what should happen in year 1 and up through to year 5, right? So we want to know what happens in year 1 through 5, because some things are going to take 20 years, but there's some things that we want you to help us identify that we should really prioritize and get done in the first 5 years, right? Because we do want to see this implement and not just be a plan. And then lastly, we want you to come and take your ideas about, do you think that there's any way you can participate with us in building Mount Vernon's downtown? Because it's hopefully going to get a very, very big facelift. So what can you do? Think about, you may know somebody, you may know a community organization that is already active. So think about how these ideas can be advanced in even a small way or a big way. You could be talking about your neighbors, or you could be talking about other organizations that are in Mount Vernon or outside of Mount Vernon. What are those partnerships, and how can you be supported better, and how can revitalization be supported better? So these are the papers that you can write your ideas over here for each of the strategies, tear a sheet, and then go to, it's right there on the blackboard behind you, and then all of the consultants are going to be sitting on the back wall on my left and your right. Come and have a conversation. There's going to be 3 tables. So we're hoping that all of you will come and have a conversation with us about that. And with that, I want to stop the presentation and request all of you to head over to the first or third. Start from wherever you like, but please come and talk to us.